Stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I'm here with my co host, Anthony Marquetta. And today we have something exciting to tell you about.
Ooh.
Very important, very exciting, and that is our Kickstarter for the Animatic uh, about the Throne of Hades. Fans of the show will know what we're referring to, namely uh, Jack Morrow descending into hell to rescue his mother from the clutches of Hades. It's probably one of our most developed stories, complete with side stories, character development, and a thousand other things, and that gut wrenching ending to boot. I'm excited. Are you excited, Anthony?
I am extremely excited. Like,
Excellent.
that sounds sarcastic, but I don't know how to make it not sound sarcastic. I actually am very excited.
Yep. We're all very excited here. Namely because it's well, the big thing for me is that it's something new within the community. Unlike a lot of other. Excuse me a second. Let me pull up some images we have. I don't really feel like playing the game anyway. Hold on a second. Stand by. Stand by.
Bum, bum, bum. So, while Ben does that, let's talk about this idea. Animatics became really big relatively recently in a community that we have been, I wouldn't say a part of, but a fan of. So, what
Yes.
community have I been a fan? What community is this? Epic the Musical. Uh, yep, this was probably one of my biggest achievements, I should say, or one of my biggest coups was getting Ben almost as interested in Epic as me. Probably not quite, but fairly close. Um,
Fairly close.
yeah. And this is pretty rare because while our tastes definitely have many points of similarity and points of convergence, there are also many points of divergence. So I'm never really sure if anything that I do with or recommend to Ben is actually going to like resonate with him. Uh, Epic did, which was nice. So it took a bit, but it
Mm-hmm.
did. So Jojo Fraga, this is the animator we hired for our Kickstarter, or we're hoping to hire for our Kickstarter. Uh, Jojo Fraga put out several animatics related to Epic the Musical. There was a big boom in the community. For some reason, Epic just really hit it off with artists. Probably a combination of a few perfect storm things. It's a released in a really accessible way. It's also a really accessible story, uh, and it just kind of it's told in a very comprehensible way, which is and very easy to imagine the things that are going on just with the verbal storytelling. So as a result of this, it got this huge boom of animatics. So I'm talking literally hundreds of them. We might even be into the thousands at this point. Well, one of the many, many artists who picked up their pen to create these animatics was someone named Jojo Fraga. Jojo put out animatics for a few different songs, but the one that stood out to me in particular was my favorite song in Epic the Musical, Love in Paradise. Uh, it is my favorite song for many reasons, but more importantly, JoJo brought it to life in by far the most creative way that I have seen it done, and the most interestingly creative way. Like, there's one person who did a good animatic. I want to emphasize where like they made Calypso in the song like a monster. This is Danae's animatic, and don't get me wrong, it's cool and I like it, but it's also like, okay, yeah, that's very interesting, but what exactly is making Calypso a monster really adding to the story besides visual interest? You know, uh, all of JoJo's choices show that she has a real eye for, like, I'm trying to think of the word, impact in her decision making. Uh, These
Mm,
are not
that's right.
just random choices that are added because they look cool. They really provide punch to the story. Like, for example, when Odysseus in the animatic says, "Hell no, I can kill you where you stand," he grabs Calypso by the neck. I've never seen anybody else do that. Everyone else, Odysseus is just yelling, or he draws a weapon or something. But in this one, Odysseus gets visceral, physical, and it makes it even more compelling when Calypso shrugs this off. And then, of course, the transformation in her animatic of Calypso into a water nymph that can transform into a giant connected with the water that carries Odysseus around, really hammering home the power differential between the two of them. And my favorite part of her animatic specifically, by far, JoJo is the absolute best I have seen at facial expressions. Uh, the facial expressions in her Love in Paradise animatic just knock it out of the park. It's honestly like really moving stuff. Like it genuinely affects me every time I watch it. In the second half of the song, for those who don't know, Odysseus gets suicidal. Literally, he can hear the screams of his dead comrades. That's all he hears all the time. And he all he wants to do is close his eyes and make the screams stop. And JoJo, more than anybody else, sells the struggle, the internal struggle of Odysseus on his face in a really moving and powerful way. She also does, by the way, this is underrated but should not go underappreciated. She also sells Athena's reaction. Athena's response to seeing this is simply to say, he needs my help. And then the next song is her making a major sacrifice to save Odysseus from Calypso. And one thing that JoJo does extremely well in her animatic is the facial expression on Athena's face. You really get the impression when you see Athena after she watches all of this go down, Odysseus nearly killing himself, Odysseus in this state of intense PTSD, begging Athena for help, who he hasn't seen in years, that Athena has this almost like, this is so much worse than I thought look on her face. Like, you could see that, like, she did not expect things to be this bad, and she knows she has to act now. Just these small details are why she was literally my first pick. When I talked to Ben about this idea and said, who are we going to get to animate Pinkerton's Ghosts? I said, I want to get Jojo Fraga. She's my favorite animatic creator. Uh, so I was very happy when she revealed that she did, in fact, do commissions. Uh, yeah, this is an idea that it occurred to me that these sorts of animatics are really, really popular right now in communities that we have interacted with and that we are a fan of, and that this could be a really interesting way to get across the story of Pinkerton's Ghost and to sample our and for new viewers to sample our work.
Oh yeah. There's a lot that, how do I want to put it? A lot of people often have to have an entry point into a series that is interesting to them that isn't necessarily connected to the medium that you've got. Like I became interested in Epic the Musical, not just because of the influence of my dear friend Anthony Marchetta, but also because there were very cool, very interesting animatics involved in the culture of Epic the Musical. You had very cool things like Ruthlessness or Thunderbringer by different people, and of course JoJo Fraga's.
Love in Paradise.
Thank you very much. Love in Paradise. I have recently started a new work schedule where I work from about 10 a.m. To about 2 to 3 a.m. on a Saturday, and I'm having I napped and everything, and napping is always a mistake. Um,
Word.
excuse me. Love in Paradise and a whole bunch of other things like that. Uh, the coolness of the animatics got me interested in a big way to the music, to the songs. The songs were never bad, but with a visualization, I could experience them in a different way, a deeper way, perhaps, one that um, I really enjoyed and could sort of use to enjoy the other songs more on their own merits rather than the what I had before, whatever it was.
Yeah, I agree. It just adds a lot to the experience of something when you have a visual in front of you. Like, we are writers, so we understand the importance of the written word, but we're also not idiots, so we understand how uh, other media can enhance the experience. In this case, it's like it seemed like this was something that nobody we our side needs to try new things. And one great thing about Pinkerton's Ghost is that, for better or for worse, it is a thing. Like, it's not a normal thing. It's we're shooting our shot here. They criticize it, people criticize on Twitter and places all the time. The
Yep.
right spends too much time criticizing the left that's years out of date, and often this is like labeled at people like the critical drinker and Mahler and whatever. I don't know if this is entirely fair, because the critical drinker and Mahler do actually create things. Like, their most recent Kickstarter was like basically funding a movie studio where they would take fan made scripts or something. Uh, but nevertheless, it's like, oh, these 10-hour reviews of why The Last of Us sucks are useless. And yeah, that's kind of true, because between you and me, we don't need them to tell us that, because nobody's watching The Last of Us anymore. They stopped. Nobody's watching Star
Yeah.
Wars. It's okay. You can rest now. You've won. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's what I've been promoting in the shorts. Basically saying you can't, like one of them is you can't rip off a dead franchise. Like Star Wars is dead. Star Wars is very dead. The spirit of we want a replacement Star Wars is also dead. There's been no Star Wars parodies for years that are worth mentioning. None. The whole, like, we definitely have to be in a position to make our own stuff, and we've been doing that. But also, uh, um, excuse me, we've been sorry. I'm trying to think it through. But we've been making our own stuff, and now's the time to start growing
yeah,
what
we
we
want to
can.
innovate.
Our audiences, we want to innovate. The idea that oh, we just have to do literature is kind of nonsensical. Renaissance man used to be the norm rather than the exception.
There's another factor here too,
Uh,
though. Brian Niemeyer talked about this a bit, and he's absolutely right. So one of the problems here is resources, right? Like, somebody goes, "Why haven't the right created things in movies?" And Niemeyer's like, "How? How are you doing this?" Like, think about this for a moment. If I were to make a budget found footage movie as cheaply as I could possibly make it, like, it would be considered like the absolute, and when I say bare minimum, what I mean here is like miraculous bare minimum, right? Absolute miraculous bare minimum would be like $10,000, and your movie is probably going to suck. I don't know anybody who can make this. Literally no one that I know can just drop $10,000 to make this. And that's not going to work, to be frank, right? Like, you're not going to make a movie on $10,000. Not really. You know, not without like an extremely specific vision that accounts for the fact that your movie is going to look like shit. Right? Like, otherwise it's simply not going to work. And
yeah,
even that sort of very specific best case scenario type of movie, that's like way too high for most people. Like, we just can't do it. We can't do this. Like, we can't make movies. But animatics, on the other hand, animatics are much more affordable. They can be done by a single person, for one thing. You only, and of course, we're not making a full season long movie. We're not making a 2 hour film here. We're making a 3 minute animatic of the climactic story arc. And this is doable. And it's the sort of place where we need to start doing new things. We need to start innovating in some way, really getting our voices out there. The fact of the matter
Hmm.
is, AI
Like,
is going to change things. It's going to change things sooner than people think.
yeah.
It's already changing things. If we ever reach the point where creating a movie that looks okay becomes as accessible as, say, creating a video game is nowadays, we're going to, and we will get there. It's going to happen, like 100%. Then you are going to see an explosion in right wing movies. Uh, if I had to guess, probably within 10 years. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, probably. There's a sort of technocratic worship that's done, that these guys, they're going to make AI. Like, there's no stopping it, as much as I personally, yeah, can't get the taste out of my mouth. It is the future, and it's something that we have to kind of just deal with. It's better to use the tools, because there's no actual moral backing to AI. It's just something that is just there. It's a tool. It's not like the One Ring. Um, I'm not making an appeal to Roko's basilisk. I'm not making a
Roko's
moral judgment.
basilisk
It's
is the
just not.
stupidest shit I've ever seen. I hate it.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's we all our homies
Yeah.
disrespect Roko's
Um,
basilisk.
you don't need to worry about it
Just
because I just imagined into existence super duper Roko's basilisk. And if you do anything but hate on Roko's basilisk, it's going to destroy the sun. So, oops.
just go straight to destroying the sun. What's that? Somebody praised Roko's basilisk?
Oh,
Everyone does.
you don't want to be doing that. I take that back now. If I were you, yeah, it's retarded. It's like basically a linguistic trick that that they use to convince you of something real. Uh,
Yeah, fear
mhm,
mongering. But it's nothing like, of course, our real work that
yes,
exists. I've been showing you a few of the frames that I greased the wheels with, to show you that we're serious. We're a serious people, a serious project. You might find, oh, why take it so seriously? Why so serious? Well, the big thing is, thank you very much, Aaron Van Schreek. The big thing is that, how do I want to put it? I don't want to say like the age of comics is over. People are still consuming comics, but there's a lot of projects that haven't delivered, and we want to prove, to show you that there is very real images, very real work done on our project by our artist. She is down. She is contract. She's locked in. She's ready to go when we get the money. Uh, this is one of those things where, there's no, the problems that you think are going to be there are not going to be there in the same way. Like, we have a strict time limit on this, when it's going to happen. We're hoping to release by September. With the delays, which have been mostly my fault because I forgot about Kickstarter's approval process, it might be at worst October that you see some of the work. And even then, we'll provide constant updates. Whenever we get information, you'll get information, as long as it's reasonable information to share out. The How do I want to put it? I'm very concerned, as somebody doing a Kickstarter, that, how do I want to put it? I'm very concerned that the projects we create have real meat to them. And I don't mean meat in the sense of, oh, it's a this. In the sense of it's real, you can taste it, it's there. As you see in the image I've got here, this is from later in the story, where Mother Morrow is examining a certain goblet after Hades promises that only, even though they've brought the heart of Kronos, which he desires, to barter for their souls, one heart is one life. And he offers one of them death and the other freedom. If only they would fight it out between them who gets what. Hades doesn't care, but somebody's got to choose. Uh, there's I just want to keep saying it's real. It's a real thing. We're not pie in the sky. We're not promising you a million things. If we get a tremendous amount of money, I've got an old project, comic project that I was working on back when that stuff was big, that I'll see about making. So it's not even like if we get a bunch of money, oh, it's just one product, we're done. There's things I can look into to try and get you more of this artistic content that you might enjoy deeply. Uh, yeah, that's the long and short of it. Do you have anything else to say on this side of things, Anthony?
Uh,
Not that we're ending
no,
the
no,
stream or
no.
anything like
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so here's the thing about this project. One thing, I was the person who proposed it. I ended up doing less than I wanted to because I got hurt when we were like right in the middle of the planning process and couldn't move for a solid week. I did get in some information later, but at that point, a lot of stuff had already been done by Ben. So sorry, Ben. But yeah, the thing about this project though is that when I proposed it, it was always with the I never envisioned it to be more than it was, and that was very intentional. One of the big problems I see it all the time with people who I greatly respect, and I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to be specific because I don't want to call people out who I do think were genuinely trying. But it is very, 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 very easy be to promise big things and not deliver. It happens with people who are really good at what they do and even somewhat successful, but they overshot. Never forget the lesson of Forrest Gump, which was a worldwide mega hit that made millions upon millions of dollars and is now a beloved family classic and flopped because the cost of the movie was more than the money it made. That's the thing that I am trying to avoid here. And I'm trying to avoid that trap among right wing creators too. Time and time again, I see people start projects. This was one of the reasons with Hightower Magazine that my stated goal with Hightower Magazine was not like, oh, I want to grow at this rate or whatever. It's in 10 years, I want the magazine to exist. Like, I I want to say 10 years down the line, Hightower Magazine is still putting out new stories. That's the goal. Because if I promise more than that, there's a very good chance I'm not going to deliver. And I don't want to promise something and not deliver. I've fallen into that trap myself. I don't want to do it. Um, I've seen people make magazines where the magazines are really high quality with really good stuff. They seem to be doing well, except that they just cost too much money to make and they die. And there's nothing you could do about it. What we are promising here is something that is concrete and doable. It doesn't cost a ridiculous amount of money. It costs a perfectly reasonable amount of money. Where it is a 3-minute animatic that's going to be beautifully illustrated and animated by in my opinion, a world class illustrator. A really, real Jojo Fraga is a truly fantastic illustrator. I really love her work. Uh, she has this gorgeous like watercolor-esque style that she uses on a lot of her epic videos that's really great to look at. Her character designs are all really on point. Her facial expressions are absolutely like some of the best I've seen in this sort of sphere. So I'm very excited to have her. I'm not telling you that we're going to have an inferior product, not at all. What I am telling you is that the sort of project that we are promising is makeable. Like it it's not an inferior product. We're not saying that we're cheaping out on things and it's going to be worse as a result. We're saying that the product that we're working on is a makeable project. It is very much, I have seen it done by many people. And like these things, if we did spend a real amount of money, like this is just so you know what I said, like that $10,000 number I gave for a movie. There was recently a thing that came out. It was called Stories from Styx. It was a series of songs that was about like Hades and Persephone in the underworld. It was okay, probably a 5 out of 10 at best. I didn't love it. I liked a couple songs. However, the person who made it paid a bunch of animators, who sort of like JoJo, who did animatics, to do animations to the different songs and illustrations and things. This music video, which was about what 12 minutes long, I think, something like that, was $10,000. I learned later. So this is why what the product we're promising. It's a 3-minute video, but it's a 3-minute video of, in my opinion, the single most dramatic scene in all of Pinkerton's Ghosts. Uh, and also, I think it's a scene that would really benefit from having the visuals attached because of how dramatic the setting is, as you can see in our sample images here. I'm very excited about this. I think this is a good project, but what I really want to emphasize is that if we get the money, we will make the project. Like, straight up.
Yep.
If we get the money, I can tell you with, I can't say 100% certainty because there's really no such thing, right? But 99% certainty that if we make our budget, our minimum budget, you will get the video that we are promising the way we are promising it. We made sure of this.
Yep. There's, like there's things that could happen. I admit straight up, something could happen to Jojo Fraga and she can't complete it. Guess what? Not that I want to mention names or anything like that because they haven't agreed to anything, but there are other animatic creators who take
Commissions.
um, commissions. So what's going to happen is that she gets abducted into space by Martians, and then once we figure that out, we're going to say, okay, we found Animator X. Animator X will says that he will complete it, in October. So sorry for the delay. Thank you very much, etc. We'll there's not much you can say when your animator gets abducted by aliens. But the point is that we're not just going to go, oh gosh dang, we're unable. Sorry guys. You backed it, but it's not happening. That's not what's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Uh, yeah, and I think that's an important thing. A lot of people, I think some of them like I don't eat like how do I want to put it? I wasn't a part of the comic culture. And I'm completely shocked with one how many people there were, but also the absolute zaniness of some of the backing rewards and how people acted and live streamed and stuff like that. And it's like I don't understand it. I don't understand how they can live with themselves and not be entirely stressed out every minute of every day that they haven't delivered what they promised to the people. But enough of this. Let's talk about the story. Pinkerton's Ghosts, for those who know, is a horror anthology podcast with a cast of characters who investigate the supernatural, fight monsters, and kill werewolves, and all sorts of wonderful things. The main characters are Jack Morrow, Jim Donovan, and Anthony's character, Sean Russo. Each of them has an arc that they go through, as all good characters do. But mainly, this arc focuses on Jack Morrow. Uh, Jack has had a very poor childhood, we'll say. His mother also had a poor childhood that ended with her fleeing a cultist compound with baby Jack before he could be sacrificed to heathen gods in the middle of the forest on the orders of his father, Jeremiah Pike. She trains up Jack to be a hard man and able to kill the many monsters of the world, though Jeremiah Pike is never far from her mind. In the first season, our detectives they discover that they're the only paranormal Pinkerton detectives left on the planet. There's some retired folks out there that are, they're going to die anyway, therefore we're going to ignore them. They're not, not that I'm ignoring them, but that's what the enemy is thinking. Excuse me. Uh, these characters discover that they're the last paranormal Pinkertons on the planet. Uh, Jack Morrow was expected to be fed to an entity called the Puppeteer, but he cut his way free in time and destroyed the monolith that the Puppeteer, a thing that puppets men, of course, as you might expect, destroys the monolith it was creating to create wide cast mind control. Jim Donovan was is expected to fall from the grace of goody two shoes people any time now. And why don't you tell us what Sean Russo was up to at the same time, Anthony?
This is season one specifically, or
Yes, we're just going
yeah.
through the
So
story.
Sean Russo. So Sean was just a guy, right? He was a real estate agent, but he got in. He made some bad deals, gambled and lost. Lost a bunch of money and sought solace at the bottom of a bottle. And he ended up joining the Pinkertons by sheer chance after a mysterious referenced but never seen incident where he drove into the middle of the Pine Barrens and was rescued by retired paranormal Pinkerton agent Tom Morrow. Morrow saw that Sean was down on his luck; his marriage had
Uh,
ended, so he trained him.
it's not a Tom Morrow. It's what's the guy? What's Tom's last
Oh,
old
I'm sorry.
Tom? It's old Tom.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not Morrow. Old Tom is. I can't recall what we called his last name, but he wasn't the Morrow. Morrow is Jack's family. Uh,
Don't worry about it. He was
yeah.
Polish.
Uh, a retired Pinker. Yeah, it's not Tom Morrow. Morrow is Jack. Is Jack's last name. That's Ben's detective. Anyway, however, he's known as Old Tom. That's his nickname. So Old Tom rescues Sean in a referenced but never seen mysterious incident. And seeing that Sean is down on his luck and in need of direction, uh, offers to train him to be a paranormal Pinkerton. And since Sean has nothing else going for him, he accepts. So Sean's just some dude. He is smart. Uh, he is handsome and he is well trained by Tom, but he is ultimately not somebody who it grew up any sort or lived a life as any sort of expert in any of this stuff. In season one, Sean's main thing was that he was trying not to die, and for some reason, he didn't die, and that did not make a lot of sense to him because a lot of much better agents than him died. So that's the mystery that Sean is trying to solve, while also navigating things like romance, since Sean is the most stable of the paranormal Pinkertons emotionally and mentally.
Yes.
At least in season
By
one.
design. We'll talk about season 3 soon. Throughout season 1, the characters discover that uh, paranormal Pinkerton agents have been disappearing. Jack discovers the treason of Grigory Horvath, as well as just a bunch of other things in general. The paranormal Pinkertons function in the world as a kind of janitor class among the supernatural organizations. Namely, they do things like investigate um, drunk guys who claim to be abducted, look into werewolf sightings, deal with like the little monsters who show up and cause trouble. Of course, that does tend to snowball into big investigations and a lot of elf murder. Well, it's self defense, elf self defense, we'll say. Uh, but it's been getting worse. It's been getting worse and worse and worse. And our characters struggle with just the forces laid out against them. In the end, using Jim Donovan's gift called the Verum Visio, they break out and discover where control is being held. Namely, a mountain dedicated to the service of the Security Commission of Prague that has been taken over by the main foe of the series, the Grand Masons. However, the Grand Masons have actually been destroyed in that location anyway, which is something like a main base. By a monster they didn't properly contain within its cell, bone stealing Hecaton Kire. The Jim Donovan kills it, and Sean, led by a character called the Doppelganger, product of Orsanto, uh, for all your doppelganger needs, choose Orsanto. Uh,
Yes.
sorry. Bayer or Santo, your doppelganger today, uh, is led by a doppelganger to Control, who has been tortured until she gave up uh, the systems that allow paranormal Pinkertons to get their orders. And of course, after that, they were killed off one by one. Uh, that ends the first season. The second season, Jack was saved in the at the end of the first season before he started the investigation into Control's whereabouts. Jack was saved by his mother from the stormhounds of a scholar from a Tower of the Jinn. He's trying to get back in touch with her as she's a very antisocial woman, to say the least, and discovers that she has descended into hell to prevent some horrible fate from happening to him. This devastates him, and it devastates him even more when he discovers that the evidence that she acted on was a lie planted by the Grand Masons, who have regathered their strength to fight and to finish their plan of destroying the paranormal Pinkertons. After all, if you trust dealing with stuff to public enterprises, to government agencies, to all sorts of things, you can be guaranteed they're going to mess it up or just not have the scale for it. Therefore, all kinds of mysterious things are going to gather, and people are going to see ghosts and elves and stuff more and more and more. And they won't have the immunity to prevent people from understanding the supernatural world and trying to use it to their advantage. It's not that there's some bubble that pops, it's just the knowledge that you could make a deal for an elf to hurt the person you hate most. And all it'll cost you is your soul. Not that you were using that, right? Uh, all kinds of things like that. He discovers that his mother has descended into hell on lies and goes in after her. And about that time, this is discovered by Control, who brings in Sean Russo and Jim Donovan.
Were you waiting for me to jump in with something?
Yes, namely what Sean Russo does.
So this is for like what's going on after they find control.
So yeah, just like what Sean's up to in season two, and how he acts about Jack descending into hell.
Yes, no. I promise you I have been listening. I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear on what you're asking me to say. Okay. So with Sean's storyline, Sean has been going through his own things. It's mostly been he has a newfound romance with a former client named Violet. Uh, that has been progressing steadily, that he is trying to balance with his Catholic faith and his divorce and hopefully soon to be annulment with his ex-wife Cynthia. He is also starting to understand more what it means to fight the Autre Terre, because what Sean learns at the end of season one is that the reason he survived is that he was being protected. A person who was a part of the Autre Terre had an interest in him, but that protection has been removed and things start to get more brutal. He loses an eye, he gets attacked in his home. He gets thrown off a motorcycle on a speeding highway. He breaks bones and he starts to learn more about hate, because it is very difficult not to hate these people. They are evil. And in a very real way, they need to and deserve to be hated. But hate is a very dangerous thing. It can be intoxicating, and it can be very difficult to step away from that feeling when you no longer need it. And Sean is now understanding more and more why Jack's motto is make them pay. Now, this is all a sort of meta storyline, because in reality, Sean is simply going through cases, right? Uh, until he learns that his good friend Jack, or rather one of his only friends, and Jack, has done something stupid and decided to venture into the underworld where no man may return. This is, of course, going to cause a massive scandal. So naturally, Sean listens to Control's call to get Jack back at all costs, because losing a Pinkerton to Hades himself would be very, very bad, not only for the world, but also for the reputation of the Pinkertons. Because one of the things that the paranormal Pinkertons are known for is that paranormal Pinkertons look out for their own. They might die, but they will never be abandoned. So Sean too makes the journey into the underworld, and he has his own perspective to give on the situation when he realizes that Hades is going to force a choice between Jack and his mother. One leaves and one dies. Uh, it's Sean who is able to, uh, I wouldn't say come to a realization or even understand things, but perhaps get out the information that Jack's mother needs to hear in the moment in order to prevent Hades from conquering her soul forever. Uh, but Sean himself doesn't fully understand what he said or what he did or the implications of it. Not at first. And then a tragedy strikes. Bum bum.
The let's see, then tragedy strikes.
The death of Cynthia
Hades.
is what I'm thinking of, but you can mention
Oh,
the Hades storyline in more detail, because I only touched on
yeah, it's
Sean's
fine.
part of it.
Yeah, that's how season two ends for Sean, going into season three, which is a absolutely, Anthony, delightful revenge arc.
Yes,
And I'm sure even more revenge will
it
happen
will. I can
very
promise you
soon.
that. Yeah, Sean's ex-wife is murdered. We don't know by who, but Sean assumes it must have something to do with him, and with good reason. And Sean, who has already been kind of spiraling downward in his feelings towards those he fights, becomes obsessed with vengeance, to the detriment of his relationship with the lovely Violet.
Absolutely. Uh, I do love a good revenge story, done just right. In the meantime, this is, of course, all season three. We do want you to check out Pinkerton's Ghosts in general, the Superversive Radio YouTube channel, and more. Uh,
And also keep in mind, by the way, that we also have the character of Jim Donovan, who has quite. He Ben mentioned him. Like, I'm not saying that you didn't, but uh, we can talk about our characters because we write them. Uh, Jim Donovan is written by our good friend Ken Dickinson, uh, who is also an excellent writer and creator in his own right. And his stories are just as compelling. And were he here, I am sure he could give just as much insight as we are able to give on our characters. So you got more than just us two.
it's true. Jim Donovan is a wizard. By that, is able to access the Verum Visio, which is a way to view the strings of creation, the interconnectivity of life, and manipulate them into many devastating effects. He is powered by the Soul Stone, which was ripped from his own brother by the necromancer Hawkwood to create a powerful ghoul, which Jim hides in his garage normally, or a random storage facility in LA. He acts as the wizardy muscle of our group, of our power trio. And he fights against necromancers, ghosts, sea people, uh, well, just anything that might rear its ugly head and attack the good. Well, I don't know if I can say good. The people. I don't know about people. The denizens of LA. Uh, uh, he does so for money and pay, but also out of the goodness of his heart. Because like all the other two characters, there's that element of Christianity in him that demands truth and the slaying of monsters the beyond the how do I want to put it humdrum of life. Instead of trying to live with the monstrous nature of our reality, let us slay it and make a better life. Uh, in season two, he sort of continues on. He dabbles with dealings with the elves, as well as interacts with things beyond mortal ken, down even to the Elf King. And by season three, he is also one of the Elf King's agents on Earth, doing his bidding to the ruination of, so far, quite evil mortals. But in season two, concerning the story, he helps Sean go through the underworld and break into the throne room of Hades only a little bit after, a bit after Jack has broken into the throne room of Hades. Uh, the stories that were written leading up to this are some of my favorite. Uh, Ken wrote a fantastic Egyptian underworld setting. Sean also hit the story beats exactly where he needed them to be. uh, Anthony did for Sean. I mean, but I do like Jack's descent into Hades. I reference Helltaker. It's just there. I'm going to admit it. Then down into the river Styx, where Karen takes him to the doorway of the ancient Greeks, where Hector stands guard, waiting for the return of his baby Astyanax from far afield. Um, Thing, perhaps, for those who know their Christian lore, the babe being innocent will never come and relieve Hades, Hector, of his vigil over the entrance to his underworld. Jack descends into the underworld and comes to the throne room of Hades after fighting Cerberus in a sort of duel. Cerberus, of course, is a demon thing and survives, but Jack is trapped within the throne room of Hades, or at least he is told he is trapped in the throne room of Hades. And he sits next to his mother in despair, and that is where Sean and Jim find him. There, Hades offers a deal. Sean has contacted old Tom, who has gotten them the Heart of Kronos, and he uses it in this deal to pay for the life of one person. He would have them both, but Hades is a cruel demon, ruler of the underworld. He only accepts one life for one heart. And to that end, well, should I tell them, Anthony?
Ooh, I don't know. You could watch our you could watch our animatic if we get there to see what happens next,
Or watch the series?
or listen
Uh,
to the story.
yes, it's a good
It is a good
story.
story.
It's pretty great,
I'm very happy with that.
very
I'm very
dramatic.
happy with that storyline. That's my probably my favorite individual like long form multi story storyline that we've done. I have my own favorite individual stories, but in terms of like
Mhm.
story arcs, that's definitely my favorite so far.
Oh yeah, it's a great arc.
Mhm.
Uh, the it's kind of difficult to keep three people on the same track, especially since I want to do things, but I have to rein myself in, and not be an author with like big old wide eyes for everything, eyes bigger than my stomach slash wallet. No, no, I have to keep myself on track, and then Anthony and Ken on track too. But it was fun. It was very much worth it to get it done. And David Halquist participates in it as well. He writes a three-part series where old Tom descends into the guts of time itself to take the heart of Kronos from its resting place, which, by the way, is somewhere in the middle of rural Illinois, next to the biggest rocking chair in America, probably on Earth. You guys think it's a fake place? No, that's a very real place. This series is Americana made
Mhm.
manifest. Uh, but he takes the heart of Kronos, and the deal is when the deal is struck, he has to deal with the horrors that come for the promised payment. Can he withstand it? Uh, he's seen a lot. Old Tom has. He also participates in a Blood Money trilogy, which is also a pretty good sort of like solo starting point if you're interested in the series. Uh, Blood Money is a vampire who has powerful mesmeric eyes, and he has to navigate killing the beast while also avoiding being consumed by the power of the vampire's will. It's very good stuff. Uh, yeah, we have over 130 episodes of Pinkerton's Ghosts. We've had a lot of guests. We've had Frank Luke on at least once, and he has another story that I really do need to get to. We've had no, she hasn't released her story yet. We've had stories performed by Son of Sonnet and other an actor friend of mine, Jason Ha. So let's see here. David Halquist has performed a lot. He's done quite well. He has great stories for old Tom. We also have stories by Mariel Marquetta, who is the voice of Control. She has done a mega series, which I thought turned out absolutely amazing. The Control trilogy, which shows how this version of Control, the mysterious, almost hereditary uh, uh, leader of the paranormal Pinkertons, got her position after the death of her mother. Uh, and the sort of mysteries that she has to solve and the deals that she has to make to survive Titania's gauntlet. Excuse me. There's a lot more in between as well. The stories that myself, Anthony, and I, and Jim, and Ken, there we go, have made
There we
have
go.
we got there somehow. Uh, have been, like, they've left an impact on me as well. I put a lot of heart and soul in them, and having to write a story and edit two other stories every 3 weeks was a big trial for the longest time. But it was one that was pretty much worth it, I think.
I agree. I would say one thing about what we're doing is that we do take this stuff very seriously, right? At least I would say I do. And to be honest, like, I wish that we had more viewers, obviously. Any author would wish that they had more more people coming in to do their stuff, to listen and interact with their work, right? Of course.
Of
With that
course.
said, whether we do or not, I still think that I'm trying to think of how to put it. Even if we don't get the amount of viewers that I wish we had, I treat this like it is a project that is very very legitimate. I don't know. That's the best way I could think of it. I'm trying. It's hard for me to come up with the exact right word that I'm looking for here, but I don't. I don't look down on this project in any way. Is I guess how I would put
Right.
it. I treat it as I treat these stories like they are stories that I am sending out for publication, for the market, for public consumption, that are going to be seen by other people, that can be critiqued like any other stories. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing I will say is that I appreciate Pinkerton's Ghost a lot because it forced me to write a lot and it forced me to write to a deadline for a long time. And in being forced to do that, you're basically forced to improve because the more you write, the better you write for the most part. As long as you're thinking it through and actively making an effort, you're going to improve the more that you write. And it has turned into like writing a 3,000 word story every few weeks, every 3 weeks or so. Originally seemed like this was going to be a challenge. Now it is still a challenge, but for different reasons, right? Like it's not so much when originally it was like, wow, 3,000 words. I'm not sure if I can come up with all of that. Now it's more like, okay, once I have the idea and I figure out what I'm going to do, I could definitely kick out 3,000 words in a couple hours, right? Um, it's more about the challenge now is less about how am I going to actually write a full 3,000 words and more about how, what is my connecting line from A to Z so that I can write it properly. That's a big change. And it's hard to, if you're not an author, you probably are not grasping exactly what I mean by this as a change. Um, but I've noticed a really big difference in like the recent project that I'm working on, that I mentioned I think last week actually. This series of Arthurian stories that I'm writing. I have noticed that there is a very big change in how I am writing them. Like if I have the connecting thread from A to Z, like I know even with not every detail, but just in general structure, where I'm going with the story and how it's going to happen, I could probably kick it out within the day, or two. But I would not have been able to do that before Pinkerton's Ghosts. And I can say too, and this is even more important, my stories are better, noticeably better. Uh, like I'm writing my most recent stuff, and when I'm done with it and reading it over, I'm like, you know what, this is good. Like I'm not sure I would have said something like this before Pinkerton's Ghosts about my own writing. Even if other people were, I did have published work. It's not like I had never sold anything before, but I never would have finished my own stuff, looked at it, and said, yeah, I think this is up there with like, really legitimate authors. But I would now. And that is partially because of the practice that I got writing Pinkerton's Ghosts. They say that for an author to really become good, you need to write at least 1,000,000 words, like before you're finally ready. And Pinkerton's Ghosts
Yep.
forced me to do that. I probably had not written that many up until Pinkerton's Ghost in fiction, but now that I've done that, it really does. Like I can see the difference in my own writing.
It's the same for me as well. Uh, just a second.
Let me entertain you while Ben does something.
I
Dun,
did
dun,
this.
dun, dun, dun. All right, go.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's same for me as well. Like it's changed how I view things. In writing as well. Like it's not like it's like, oh, I've become a critic of this or that. No, it's like it's made my editing sharper. It's made my how I view stories much sharper than I did before. It's not that like the spirit of how I write or anything like that changed. It's very much, there's now more of a process. It's more of a muscle. You go to the gym, right?
yes,
You
that's a great
exercise
way of
at a
putting it.
certain weight. Yes, yes. You exercise at a certain weight. 40 pounds, let's say, for a barbell curl. You want to do it at a certain weight in a certain form. Uh, and you want to make sure that you're getting the full motion so you get the real benefit of the exercise. Now, with that sort of thing, uh, how do I want to put it? If you don't do the full curl, the full exercise, you're just not going to get stronger. Um, you know,
Yeah,
as
I'm sorry. Finish your thought. I wanted to make sure. Go ahead.
Fiona Wolf has a good point here. Yeah, some stuff goes smoother the more you write. It's just the refinement phase is different for most people. It's true. Some people do it through fan fiction. Some people do it through fiction. I wrote a little fan fiction. I wrote a little this. I wrote a little that. Some of the stuff I would rather die than let you see any of it. But other stuff, I'd love to, show you some of my early work. Uh, there's that for a while. What I would do is I had a short story that I would rewrite every time I thought I got better, and it would just, yeah, it got better. You could see that it was like a paragraph long in one version, and then it was a page long in another version, and it was 10 pages long, and the
Well,
characters were developed, and the things were brought forth. There's many ways to do it, but there's you don't get the muscles if you don't do the workout. Go ahead, Anthony.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, there was something that Father Augustine, when he came on our show, said that I've always thought of, and I thought of it not so much because I thought it was weird, but I reflected on the fact that I didn't think it was weird, that I totally understood what he meant. So he has this wonderful novel, The Eighth Arrow. Absolutely love it. My favorite novel that I read that year. I still love it. It's a novel that like I'll reread and get sucked into. It's really good. So once again, I will highly always take the time to highly recommend Father Augustine and the Eighth Arrow. But anyway, so when he was telling us the story of how he wrote it, it's a story of Odysseus escaping from the underworld of Dante's Inferno with Diomedes, and he said he got it in conversation with. He said that he got it in conversation with what's his name, Philip Pullman, because Philip Pullman wanted to write a story in the world of Paradise Lost, and that became the Golden Compass. He wanted to write a story in the world of Dante's Inferno, and that became his book. Right? Okay. But when he told it, he said, "Yeah, originally the main character was a boy with guns for arms who just like shot his way out of the underworld." Right? And he was like a cyborg. Now, if you actually read the book, the idea that this would be the main character is so different from the final version, right? Like, not even close. It seems like it seems like, because it would have been a completely and totally different story. And yet, Father Augustine was saying this was the original idea. It was the first thing that I started to work on, that in the story that became the Eighth Arrow. And me as an author, I heard this and I was like, that makes total sense to me. That completely tracks. Right? Like, I was not, it did not confuse me at all. Like, and part of that is if you go into, like, say, the Blood Money story. That was an idea. That whole story with Blood Money and Shipton and the inner city of Shipton, even the character of Nick, the character of Phil, and everything going on with it, that had been like a trunk story of mine, right? For years and years. I had it in the background. And the original conception of it was a superhero story about the immortal Sir Lancelot fighting crime in inner city New Jersey. Like, that was the original version of what became the Blood Money story. And then eventually I came up with the villain of Blood Money. He was part of it from very early on. Morgana was as well. So Morgana, by the way, in Pinkerton's Ghost, also originally a part of this like trunk story of mine. That's one of the reasons I added her to Pinkerton's Ghosts. So, but part of it was like, okay, so I have Blood Money. I really liked him as a villain, so I said I'm going to use him in Pinkerton's Ghosts. Um, Over time, as I was like toying with that story, I eventually added a side character, a detective who teams up with Lancelot named Nick. And I sort of had this idea of him as like he wanted to be a noir detective, like a sort of, Marlowe or Sam Spade type, but he was just kind of too nice of a guy to really pull it off, you know. And he was just good natured. And then I realized that I kind of had found him to be more interesting than Lancelot in the story. So I retooled it to make him the main character. And then Nick finally eventually shows up in the episode Party Crashers, which was like I think Sean's season 1 finale before the Control trilogy at the end of season 1.
Yep.
So finally Nick arrives, and I still have plans for this, and I absolutely intend to do it. I very much intend to close off the Blood Money storyline with a solo novel starring Nick. Like that's absolutely on the back burner, and I do intend to do it one day, but it's low on the list currently. We have other projects, and I have other projects I'm currently working on, but it's 100% on the list. So yeah, it's really interesting just to think of like the process of writing and how that changes things, and how Pinkerton's Ghost was an excellent tool, I think, for all three of us, because arguably of the three of us, the one who improved the most was Ken. Now, this is because
Yeah.
Ken is not a writer. Like, this is not an insult in any way. It's actually a compliment, because I think that what Ken's done is incredibly impressive, because Ken was explicitly not a writer. He simply, like, he was an actor. That was his chosen art form, right? Like, that's what he had dedicated himself to mastering. He had never written before. I actually think that his first ever Pinkerton's Ghost episode, Red Coal, Black Shadow, is honestly probably still one of my favorites. It's certainly one of the scariest. Um,
It's though for people who are watching it, it's about his it's not his first, it's like his third or fourth or so.
was it?
Or
Okay. Yeah, it's
yeah.
been a while. But it was one of his early stories. Yeah. Um, Red Coal, Black Shadows. And I remember reading it, and like that's still one of my all-time favorite, probably Pinkerton's Ghost stories. Um, can improve by leaps and bounds, and uh, at this point, I would consider him to be fairly close to what I would say is like, yeah, I would, I don't know, I don't want to make a comparison, because then that limits us, and I don't want to limit us. Let the people decide how good we are. But I will say I think he's improved very much from where he started. And
Oh yeah.
I don't think he started at a bad place. I think his early work was honestly like decent, and now it's gotten really, really good. My early work, I don't think, was bad by any stretch. I reread Ghost Store, and I'm like, Ghost Store was a complicated story. One of the big things that I noticed reading my early work back now, once again, I'm not somebody who's like overly self-critical. You see, like sometimes with people like Gene Wolfe, they go, "Oh, I can't read my early stuff. I get secondhand embarrassment." Now, some of the stuff I get secondhand embarrassment because it's genuinely just not very good. But like I think that I have an objective enough eye about my work that I can acknowledge like flaws and good points. And the main thing I notice when I look at my early stuff, especially Ghost Store in the early episodes, is like that Sean's voice had not quite solidified yet. Um, Sean talks like me, and that is intentional. I like the reason that Sean talks like me is because I knew I would be writing a lot of him. So I figured it would just be easier on all involved if I just had him mimic my own speech patterns, because then I didn't need to put much thought into like making the Sean voice. Um, I still think this was the correct call. I have no regrets doing it. But even then, in the early days of Pinkerton's Ghost, especially in like Ghost Store, it's hard to say. There's a little bit too much sarcasm, a little bit too much tongue in cheek talk from Sean. Like the way he talks with Morgana is probably not how I would write that stuff now. With that said, I don't think that Ghost Store, which was my first episode, is a bad episode because I needed to do quite a bit. I need to introduce the character. I need to introduce his the Ring of Dispel, which is a powerful magical object. I need to introduce the world, like Sean's kind of way. His I need to introduce the tone of his stories and how they differed from Jack and Jim. Um, and I needed to get the voice of Sean across and introduce like a long running conflict and a recurring villain. And overall, rereading Ghost Story, I think I did a fairly good job for a story that needed to be very complex. With that said, I think that if I rewrote Ghost Story today with largely the same plot, it would be a lot better. Now, I don't necessarily believe in doing that. There is one author who has ever done that in a way that people liked, and that author is J.R.R. Tolkien. And even then, we were blessed from his rewrite of The Hobbit that would have stripped out all the humor and made it more like Lord of the Rings. We have fragments of it, but that Hobbit would have been worse.
It's true. Uh, the Hobbit's perfect as it is.
It is. It's a great book. However, I will say he rewrote Riddles in the Dark, and Riddles in the Dark from when I was a child was always my favorite chapter in the book. I have read the side by side with the original version, and Tolkien's rewrite is an objective improvement in every way.
Uh, sure. Let's we've talked a lot about our processes and our writing as well. The as the guy who's the chief editor makes the creative decisions and so on, I'm absolutely proud of Anthony and Ken and David and everyone else for their work and improvements. It is a delight to receive a short story that we can work into the series, or to work with Ken or Anthony in making their next episode.
If
Uh,
I can pause, I'll say that the running joke is whenever we discuss which one of us is the best writer, we debate for a moment and then go, oh, wait, yeah, it's David.
it's true. He is pretty good. Uh, I hope he produces a new series sometime soon.
Yes.
But for now, uh, yeah, no, just seeing them grow and seeing myself grow, it's been great. 130 episodes of anything will do that to you if you're writing. Either you'll become actually good, or you'll be devoured by your own fetishes and mistakes, which is always the danger of long running series. Like, will they Flanderize the characters, or will they actually keep them fresh, pristine, excellent, properly set up? It is something to consider. Uh, with the Kickstarter, we have already received a couple pledges, uh, and we
Yeah,
want
can
to.
I just say I love all of you? I looked at it and I was shocked. I'm like, how did we get this this much money this quickly? And because I'm gonna be honest, we and I'll say this, we had literally no idea if this was even possible. We were kind of gambling. I like based on stuff from people in our sphere that this was like okay, this seems like a reasonable ish amount of money. Now I'm looking at it, and within like the hour, we're at $525. Is it?
Yep,
Yeah, $525. I'm like, oh my god, we actually might be able to do this. Like actually though. So thank you. I love all of you.
I want to give a thank you to the two people who have bought them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One bought a thank you package, which is our featured package, which is this is a good time to talk about the rewards.
Yes.
Um, which is a collection of all the Pinkerton's Ghost stories that we have written up to season 3. It is includes a thank you dedication on the last images of the animatic, which are pretty good stuff. Uh, Let me just make sure I've got All the information, yes. A copy of the animatic, the complete case files, and a thank you in the credits. That's our thank you tier. Anything above that will also receive the thank you tier. But if you're just interested in some of the books we've got, we do have things like the Mother Morrow case files. Mother Morrow is, of course, Jack Morrow's mother, and it's her adventures while Jack was a teenager. Mostly focusing on her, but also showing how she deals with a growing and willful Jack Morrow. Though willful is probably a strange term for a guy like Jack Morrow, but in the sense of he's not your average boy. It features some of my best work in the series, uh,
I
especially
agree.
the last 3 or 4 episodes where it sort of comes to a head. But my personal favorite is actually the first episode. These were all performed by Selena Saucedo, who is an excellent voice actress who I would love to work with again. She really hit the character out of the park. Really just 10 out of 10 performance. Uh, Mother Morrow is a very serious character. Uh, this is going to sound strange, but this isn't like some sort of weird Reddit tier. Oh, she's such a strong mother. No, I make it very clear that there's limitations to how she acts. And the only reason that she survives as an agent of the paranormal Pinkerton is because she's a secretive person, and she's probably the most vicious woman alive at her time, uh, which people underestimate quite a bit. Then we have the season one electronic collection and the season two electronic collection, just for however much you want. Frankly, if you want all the books, just get the thank you, and you get your thank you, and you get the animatic, and you get a nice thing. Uh, but these are the PDF Kindle files that Pinkerton's Ghost comes in. Uh, Namely, just your typical Kindle situation. We will throw these up on Amazon after this, and they will be more expensive than what's displayed. We will have also paperbacks at that time. And frankly, if we break, say, 10,000 or so, I would be willing to contact people and say, hey, if you want paperbacks, $10,000 is a lot of money that, we hope we'll be able to do it. And if you have no interest in the animatic at all, we do have a full case file collection that includes the guest stories, which I am not including in the main sets, simply because it's different people's work. I own them. I want to be very clear on that. There are contracts I keep that basically say I own this story and I can do what I want with it. Um, within reason, of course. So, I'm going to resell them, and some of the authors will receive some extra money from that, namely David. So, if you do see that, on Amazon or something like that, it, you know, it won't be a bad experience. Then we have the thank you tier of $25, which I've already talked about. Underneath that is what I'm calling feedback from the editor. It includes the thank you tier and includes feedback from myself on a story that you've written. So let's say that, and that includes like a basically an hour long session where you and I chat, hash it out. What does your story need? How do you want to proceed? Why are you experiencing writer's block? Think of it as like you're picking my brain for how I would help you with your story. This isn't editing in the traditional sense. It's just a consulting session. Uh, you know, Plus all the other tiers, and you get help on a manuscript that you might be having trouble with, or even just to hear my sultry voice. At 150, we will add you as a character in Pinkerton's Ghosts. You will not die. You will probably be harassed by goblins or werewolves or Italian mafioso trying to pretend to be werewolves. We'll talk about it. And you'll be added into a series. You will have lines. You will be a character. It's not just like, oh, there's a brown haired guy and that's you, buddy. It's not going to be that. You'll be named and you'll have a character arc to it. Uh, then we have at $200, you will be a doomed character in Pinkerton's Ghosts. Yes, killing you is worth $50 to us all. It was originally going to be 100, and I thought, no, I got to provide the good content to deal to the backers. But no, you make a character, and they'll be horribly eviscerated by something, and you can we can see about what sort of thing will eviscerate you. Uh, you might not get your poignant Shakespearean death speech, but we will certainly accommodate any number of horrid deaths within reason. And believe you me, people think that within reason is like, oh, he's gonna curtail. No, the within reason is very big. Basically, as long as it's not pornographic, you're going to die that way. It also includes all the thank you, the complete case files, and a copy of the animatic when it's released. Uh, let's see here. We also have a story editing tier. This is entirely this is an editing session. I will be with you. I will edit your story. I will clean up technical errors. I'll help you write it to a certain point. Talk to you about it. What you do with an editor, essentially. How I would treat you like I would treat Anthony or Ken. Uh, don't tell them how I treat you, Anthony. Don't
I
do
was
it.
about to say something, but I thought it wise to stay silent.
Thank you, Anthony. That's right. That's right. Uh,
Eh.
so you will be treated by like one of my lovely authors, and you will produce on time, under budget. It'll be quite wonderful. It'll be more than you could possibly uh, 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 expect from something like this. I promise you. I promise you that. Lastly, and this is one that has been sold already, is direct and record a story. Do you have a favorite monster? Do you have a certain kind of horror film and you want a story about it that you can read and feature on Pinkerton's Ghosts? You'll work with the staff of Pinkerton's Ghosts to get your ideas down on paper and recorded for YouTube, just like any episode. That's right. I will help you write a story for Pinkerton's Ghosts, and you can read it out loud as if it's an episode. I think this is the best one, and it's not just because it's $500, but also because a lot of people have a lot of ideas. You, the listener, the 300 odd people listening to us right now, have a ton of ideas. I'd recommend picking it up and get one of them out there. We'll never know what they are unless they're written down and performed for posterity. Or at least until Roko's Basilisk kills us all, because I've been talking mad shit about Roko's Basilisk. So far, we have sold a one of those, and I'm looking forward to working with the backer, who I would like to thank you very much, as well as the person who bought the thank you package very much. Working with you to get it done. Hmm. Those are the rewards. Again, we'll think about other things if we get past certain points, but I'm not going to worry about that until we do. We do have things like this rough draft of a excuse me, rough draft for a comic, which I paid for and then never did anything with. We also have things like physical copies that we can see about delivering to people. But our goal, like we said earlier in the stream, is not to overpromise anything. We are delivering you guys what we can do truly, fully, wholeheartedly. Uh, Pie in the Sky was for 2016 when everything was Wild West and crazy, or even 2020 when Comicsgate happened, or any number of things. But no, it's a different paradigm. Away with the jesters and the junglers and the snide comments. We're here to be professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's several things that point us in the general direction of, yeah, this will happen. Namely, we've been doing this for 5 years. This is the key fact of the. Let me dive into my PBS telethon voice. That's this has been the key part of everything we've done for the last 5 years. We want to represent what we've created in more than just literary form to stick around in the minds of people who, let's be real, we don't read like we used to. Instead, let's create something new, something special. I haven't heard of any right wing creators doing the animatic, and we'd like to see if there's interesting work to blaze new ground uh, within the sphere. And it's very important for us to blaze new ground. Uh, Nathan Hood, others have been producing content, Finn de Villiers, and it's very, very clear that uh, how do I want to put it? The time is right to bring forth something new, to burst forth from our walled compounds and take the world at large, to grow beyond what we think of ourselves and into something truly new, truly magnificent. Of course, you might say, well, every it's not just going to be new because nothing's ever new. No, 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 no. What I mean is new for our generation, new for the spirit of what we're doing, to create things, to push things forward into that higher dimension. Uh, Fiona, it's bigger than just some small things to create. Art is a purpose in and of itself. I fully believe that all good art, in fact, is inspired by the Holy Spirit to uh, improve the soul. And I think the new spirit that's going to be coming up to us is going to be one of a mix of the physical world and the soulful world. The If I may don my cap, if I still have your attention, and I haven't scared you away by talking about souls, and yeah, I haven't scared you away from things like editing your story or consulting or a thank you in the credits, which I do recommend to all 300 of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that this is important. Please listen, even as you dig into your wallets. Please listen. I believe that the new paradigm that we are going to experience will not be one of rational materialism, but of materialism and theological clarity intermixed. You might find that's rise like a phoenix from the trash heap of a current year. Yes, Megabuster Shepherd, we're rising like phoenixes. Uh, I lost my PBS voice for a second. Uh, so
Come on,
consumed by
Ben.
the spirit of the thing. Uh, no, I'll speak more boldly. I'm tired of boomer materialism. I do not care for it one bit. I've read the old texts, the ancient things, and I know that fundamentally there was a merger of spirit and reality that people lived in, people wrote about constantly. Things like the Castle of Otranto, and even more materialist things like Frankenstein, dealt with the spirit, dealt with the experience of living in ways that, frankly, the modern world has no real answer for. They're consumed by their lusts and their desires and their inability to move forward into something more. I believe that the reason why we keep hashing out Star Wars and George R. R. Martin, which are check out the shorts on my YouTube channel, Superversive Radio, if you're interested in those, is because there is a spiritual death within the community that we need to rise from. Yes, Megabuster Phoenix, like Megabuster Shepherd, like Phoenixes. I actually no, hold on, Megabuster Shepherd. I'm renaming you. Your name is now Megabuster Phoenix. I expect you to make the appropriate changes on your legal documents soon. Uh, we need to rise from this materialist world, away from these strange existences of the boomers. Where I saw an article, wicked article, where it's like we bought off our kid's house, the mortgage, we helped them out. but the house lost $100,000 in value. Should we sue over that? What do you mean? And these are the people with all the money and the power. It's ridiculous nonsense. They're Mega Buster Shepherd. I will change the Twitter handle. I thank you, Mega Buster Shepherd Phoenix. I appreciate you. You're great. Uh, I will work something in for you later. Uh, the excuse me. Uh, this sort of materialistic thinking is what infects it. Infects a lot of society. But fortunately, I'm actually meeting a lot of people who are beyond that, especially young men. And some women as well, if they're kind of like out of the HR paradigm. Uh, they sort of realize that there's a spiritual nature to the world. They understand that they have to live in this world, right? You have to have a job. You have to think about not starving to death. Very important not to starve to death. Uh, but it goes beyond to, how do I want to put it? To a yearning for the spiritual that is leading a lot of people to come to Christianity. A lot of people are aware of like the Ortho Bro movement that took over the internet for 5 minutes, maybe a year, where people were converting to Orthodox. Well, the reason why they did that isn't because of some deep theological meaning that they understood, right? Like Anthony and I, we've had many live streams where we discuss the spiritual nature of the world, differences between Protestants and Catholics, and in a respectful manner. But these people are not trained. Like, not that I'm saying that me and Anthony are like trained theologians, but
No.
we've studied deeply. We've studied very carefully. We can succinctly, well, I don't know about succinctly, but we can discuss our points with.
Let's not get crazy now.
Let's go like a crazy. We can discuss our points in great detail, as well as back up our points with scripture, tradition, logic, any number of things. And when you get online characters, who desire the spiritual, what they actually change is uh isn't, how do I want to put it? They're not actually making a big theological statement. They might change their team color. What they're saying is they have a hunger for Christ, and they don't know where to get it. If they look online, they see the Lutherans who have their lady pastors, and they go to the Catholics who, not that I'm saying that this is, thing, but the stereotype
Have
of,
their
well,
issues, yes.
yeah, a bunch of issues. Choose your issues. Whether it's something like, the much reported on pedophile priests, who will remind you, less pedophilic than the average public school teacher, or it's Francis just saying whatever's in his heart at any moment. How can they choose Catholicism? How can I make an argument for Protestantism to someone who knows nothing about Protestantism? Because, excuse me, because what they'll do is they'll look at the Lutherans and they'll say, oh, well, what about your evangelical types and this and that? My answer is, we're not Lutheran. They don't understand that, but you're all Protestants. Yeah, but I'm not that kind of Protestant. There's no connection there. So they go to the Orthodox, who have a decent aesthetic to them, and fairly decent unity online. A lot less crazies, partially because Russians tend to be a little too unable to interact with Twitter on our side. So these they get hit by orthodoxy, but in reality, it's less of a spiritual question to them. It's less of a spiritual study. It's why the movement died away, and a lot of people are moving to things like Catholicism, which is like an upgrade in faith. They've studied more. They've interacted more. They're seeking the truth more. This spirit is also evident in art. A lot of people are pursuing that new thing in art, the avant-garde. My bold statement, and I'm going to tag Nathan Hood and other people in it, is that The next frontier of art is the reinvigoration of spirit within the material world. And you might say, Ben, that's very vague. It's not vague, but it is. It is, I guess, vague if you for certain ways. In Pinkerton's Ghosts, and these are the things that you're going to receive. Right, I'm bringing us all the way back to the Kickstarter, which please support us if you want to support ideas like this. These ideas are in Pinkerton's Ghosts. We mentioned Ken's excellent story, Red Coal's Black Shadow. In this, Jim Donovan investigates a house that's dealing with hauntings. He's able to trap ghosts within the Philosopher's Stone, and he's able to gain power from it as a wizard. So he investigates, uh, and in the end, he discovers it's not a ghost at all, but instead a demonic thing, a horrid thing, a thing with red eyes in the darkness that hates and hates and it hates. And it's connected not to some sort of death, right? That's actually like a death, and then there's demons haunting it. That's actually kind of material. It's too obvious, because it's not one to one. Just because somebody died in a place doesn't mean it's haunted.
Yep.
uh no, it's connected to these things that they bought, these African idols that they purchased to decorate their home with. Why in the world would you bring in demonic idols to your family home? Well, they did. So that is that's sort of the thing about it. These people are materialistic. Oh, I've got a cool and diverse African not that we make it very political, but the way they act is like, oh, we're so advanced, we're so next level because we have these African idols, and we they're so chic and whatever they say. In reality, people don't actually know what's fashionable. If you knew what was fashionable, you wouldn't talk about it, sort of, if you understand things. uh so they have a materialistic view of the world, but they understand that they have a spiritual malady that is infecting their home. And so Jim Donovan is able to not really deal with it, but he's able to sort of guide them and help them make their choices, which I can't remember. I think they actually refused to get rid of it, uh, which, you know, not metaphorical at all. For those who get these sort of things, this is the art that you will support through the Kickstarter. These are the ideas that you're going to support. I'm going to put this idea forward to men like Nathan Hood and Finn de Villiers. I'm going to stake a bit of my reputation for him. Not everything, like people who's like, I'm going to stake all my reputation on an idea. Maybe, if the idea is like a big money thing, but no, this is art. I'm gonna change my mind in 3 days, guys. No, I'm kidding. um, but no, the general thrust of things, reading things like King Arthur, reading things like uh how do I want to put it, reading the deep things of the world. Oh, Anthony disappeared.
I I
Anthony.
I disconnected for like 2 seconds and then came back.
Okay. uh Anthony, you're back. Reading the deep things of the world is will bring you to a higher knowledge of the world itself. The Knights of King Arthur understood that they had a fundamentally material issues that they had to deal with, dragons and evil knights and so on and so forth. Right, these are physical threats, but they also understood that there was a spiritual nature to them, that this spiritual nature was also something that they had to overcome. There's a reason why many of them come across churches or seek the Holy Grail. They're seeking salvation in uh, in this way of metaphor for story. It's not that you can seek the Holy Grail and also seek salvation, but it's like they're seeking Jesus Christ. They understand that these things are important over the concerns of the material world. let's be real, there's no material reason to pursue the Holy Grail. It doesn't give you crazy powers. They didn't have Indiana Jones back in 500 AD. No, it was a thing worthy because of its spiritual nature within the material world. And I think the Grail Quest is a great image of sort of what we've got here with Pinkerton's ghosts. Yeah, they're not really seeking the Grail, but it's the idea of it. The spiritual being more important than the physical, while also the physical, existing and being that threat. Anthony, what do you think about my declaration?
Um, I wish I had something more concrete to say, but like, yeah, no, sounds good.
You're literally writing stories about this, Anthony.
So, okay, with the Holy Grail. Yeah, when the
Not
Holy Grail appears in Arthurian literature, it is always about uh the search for the spiritual, like the search for spiritual enlightenment almost, but not in the Buddhist sense. More like you can only access the Grail if you are right with God, like you're at your final state. You don't need to change anymore. You are already the sort of person who can go to heaven. That is the sort of person who can access the Grail. Right? It's why Galahad could do it, but Lancelot, I think, could only see it, if I'm not mistaken. Uh
through he had a it was veiled when it was shown to him.
yes. So Lancelot can only see it, veiled, but Galahad can receive it and can go through it to his reward, because that's what the Grail actually means. Like, if you find the Grail, you have essentially accomplished the goal of Christian life. Um, to think of it as a sort of super powerful item is to miss the point of what the Grail cycles are trying to do. Well, that's it.
Yes,
That's all I got. Yeah.
yeah, it's fine. Uh, yeah, it might be strange for some people to think about it because Anthony and I already kind of, not even kind of, we do live, breathe the spiritual world. Uh, these things do it. Your actions, sins, good deeds, whatever, echo across the cosmos, and these things can never really be stripped from you in a way that people want to. Uh, the big policy of the leftist powers, not the woke foot soldiers, not the weird little companies that are basically tar babies to get people stuck in, but the actual policy of the people who fund DEI and all this jazz is material. They think that there's more control over it. Yeah, there's some people who are truly wicked, like George Soros or the Bohemian Grove types, quote unquote. Not to bog us down with conspiracy, but those types.
It's not a
Who
conspiracy. We have photos.
we have photos.
Um,
But you know
what?
what I mean when I say conspiracy. Yeah, there are people who worship evil, Satan, whatever you want to call it. They might not think of it like that, but it's, like eyes wide shut parties. They decide that they want these things, these spiritual, these things that are denied to us by God because they're spiritually incredibly bad for us. um, there's it's sort of like two tiers, but even they're incredibly material. Even if they have an inkling of the idea that they'll go to hell, their spiritual nature is entirely um, deadened to what's going on. My pastor mentioned this in service today. That he knew a guy who entered the ministry, and his wife and he had to divorce because she refused to join him in it. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so close to God." But the fact is that if he's divorced, he's actually disqualified. Uh, it's he
Hmm.
can't really be in the ministry in the way he was, and also be divorced in the way he was. Maybe if she cheated on him or something, we could have a different conversation. But the fact of the matter is, she said, I don't want to follow you into ministry. And he, if he remarries, he would. Anyway, point is that it was a material choice for a spiritual reason. However, if he was actually being as spiritual as he'd say, he'd see where it says that things like elders of the church must be married. That the rules and things he preaches on, he doesn't follow himself. Um, it's materialism in a spiritual realm. You know, it's I could go on and on about this. Uh, but it's the spirit behind Pinkerton's ghost as well. The soul of it is, how do I want to put it? America is in decline. We all know this. There's a spiritual decline, though, that's more dangerous than any physical decline that we can have. The reason why it's dangerous is because while I could be killed in the street by some random passerby, uh, in reality, my soul will go straight to heaven. There'll be some, I'm not talking about purgatory. We're not talking about this stuff. My soul will go straight to heaven. I'm a saved Christian man. I confess Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. No work of mine, but faith alone. Uh, I have every confidence in Jesus Christ. The idea that anything other than His blood, which He shed on the cross, His resurrection, it, I can't even comprehend it. Uh, but if you're separated from that, if your life is separated from this spiritual well power, this thing that wells up inside me, continuously renewing me, telling me that the evil I do is evil and the good I do is good, and then I should do this or do that, the 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 thing that comes with being a Christian that people might not understand, uh, unless they experience it themselves. If some random passerby, is killed by a werewolf, and he doesn't have that spiritual nature to understand the evil that he's gone through, he's going to go to hell entirely confused. He's not going to be the Christian man, bravely facing the world of darkness. He's going to be a victim of that darkness and a man who participated in that darkness. The spiritual nature doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't, he might say that it doesn't matter, but in the end, it's going to reach out and bite him and drag him down. That's uh that's one of the tragedies of how America is coming by, and why people are seeking the faith again. And Pinkerton's Ghost reflects that. Churches go bad and self-destruct because of boomers within them. I'm sure plenty of Christians have church split stories. I know, I do. Uh, there's also things like wicked people destroying churches, removing that spiritual nature from the land itself. What happens? Well, something comes to replace it. A soulless body is dead. Anthony and I were discussing the Fisher King before we came onto the stream. The Fisher King's land is dead because he has no ability to create life. That's what the wound on the thighs will say means. The king is deadened. He might still exist in a material world, but the spiritual wellspring that a king should be to his people is dead. It's you could see a similar nature when we have an evil president. The land seems to have issues. You can't seem to get what you want. Prices go up. Like it's a real thing in our material world. That the spiritual nature of things uh, uh, affects deeply. Megabuster Phoenix says bad priests have been the downfall of many a congregation. Bad pastors, bad elders, bad deacons, bad people who stubbornly cling to an idea that they're saved, even as they drag people down with gossip and malaise. And of course, this breeds werewolves. In case you wondered how this connected to Pinkerton's ghosts. At this point, we've been streaming for almost 2 hours. I'm not willing to marathon for much longer. Uh, Anthony, why don't you talk a little bit about your stories and how you view Sean Russo while I take care of some things
Sure. So,
in
yeah,
the
the
theme of
conception of Sean
Finger's
as a
Ghost. I mean,
character.
sorry.
Yes. Okay, so the conception of Sean as a character, I did have a very deliberate idea when I was creating him, and I do not know how well this came across to the audience, but I did my best. The idea behind the character of Sean Russo was that in a world where you have a guy like Jack who was like raised from birth to be a paranormal Pinkerton fighting these monsters, and a guy like Jim who is a wizard who is willing to traffic with dark forces and who has these incredible powers. Sean is a normal guy. Like he is smarter than average, it is true. Um, he is well trained, but he did not grow up with the Autre. He grew up in a normal family. He had a normal job. He worked as a real estate agent. He is the window into a normal life that the Pinkertons would have protected, but his life, of course, got upended. He ended up in the Pinkertons, but nevertheless, he sort of represents like this is the sort of person who the Pinkertons are going to protect. He's not a saint. He is not a monster. He is a good person who is trying his best and who fails quite a bit. As all of our detectives do, by the way. But Sean's whole point is that he is intentionally underpowered compared to the other Pinkertons. Now, the thematic thrust of Pinkerton's Ghost as a whole is about the decline of America, but the types of stories that I like to explore and I like to tell are ways of sort of I like to try and make sense of the suffering, right? And like why is this happening? Why are we doing this? Like why are we doing any of this, right? Like why is any of this going on? Like what's the problem of evil is something that both does and does not fascinate me. It does in the sense that I have never found any of the popular answers satisfying. Like, oh, you don't understand. Like this small child who died of slow and painful cancer uh, really deserved it, and so did their family, or it was some sort of growth that they needed. It's like, no, I know people who need way more growth than them, who could have benefited way more than them, who deserved it way more than them. None of that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't track in my head. So on one hand, the problem of evil is always at the forefront of my mind of like all of these horrible things happen all the time in ways that simply cannot and do not make sense to me, and I can't pretend that they do. On the other hand, uh, it doesn't fascinate me at all because, in a sense, I'm like, the fact that I don't understand it does not mean that there isn't an explanation. It just means that I don't understand it. That's the entire point of the book of Job. Not only do we not understand it, we can't understand it. And yet, we're doubting the Lord here, the one who, catches Leviathan with a hook, right? Holds him up on his fishing pole because we can't just because we don't get it doesn't mean that there is no plan. And do you trust the Lord? Is the Lord good? That's the entire point of the praise of Abraham for the killing of Isaac. Abraham, as they tell us in the book of Hebrews, Abraham believed that Isaac would be brought back to life. He had absolute faith in the Lord to keep his promises because he knew with absolute certainty that the Lord was good. We must understand that even in the midst of all of the suffering, the Lord is good. Just because we don't get it doesn't mean that there is not an answer that we will one day, and perhaps we will understand it one day, or perhaps we will be required to live by faith. And maybe we will simply just fully understand the goodness of the Lord and understand that that maybe we don't need to know why the Lord is doing all of these things, but we can be absolutely certain that there is a reason. I try to explore this in Pinkerton's Ghosts. One of my favorite lines in any of the stories is from an otherwise unremarkable story, in my opinion, called Grim Tidings. But I have a bit of dialogue at the end that to be frank, cribbed very liberally from John C. Wright's Awake in the Nightland, where Sean asks the Grim uh, the snarly Yao, a type of grim, a sort of portent of danger, who, as it turns out, is actually on the side of the angels and saves Sean's life. As it's dying, Sean asks the Grim, why? Why are they doing this to us? Like, why is the Otrater doing it to us? And the Grim simply laughs and says, you already know the answer to that, Sean Russo. Because we do, right? Like, why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? Well, because the prince of this world is the devil, and these people are the servants of the devil. And if we do not, or if we choose not to be the servants of the devil, then they will always hate us. Hate us. Uh, and the other answer, of course, is, you know better to ask that question, is you know that no answer is going to satisfy you. They hate us because that is what they do. They're evil. You know, evil hates good. That's simply how it works. And humanity is beloved by God, created in his image, so they will always hate humanity. But there is still a point, there is a way out. Jesus Christ has showed us how to escape from the bonds of death and to rise into new life. So, I try to show these in everything I do, and that includes Pinkerton's Ghosts. What I'm exploring right now in the storyline of Sean in the context of Pinkerton's Ghost is the limits of revenge. And it's a very tricky subject because it's discussed all the time in Hollywood, and in my opinion, quite badly. You don't become as bad as evil people because you destroy evil people. Destroying evil isn't evil. At the very least, certainly not as evil. You certainly are not going to become as bad. And yet, we are not called to just be not as bad. We are called to be perfect as our Heavenly Father is perfect. What is the perfect answer? That's kind of what I'm trying to explore. Anything you want to say, Ben?
I do want to thank you to those who have backed us, um, backing us for, $3 for $5 for more. It'll everything will go quite a long way to help us break through and create something that we hope is very new. Not excuse me, not that hope we let's that how do I want to put it? Animatics have been done, of course, to create something that people will hold on to and latch onto and sort of desire for their own sake. Excuse me. Talking for 2 hours does tend to take it out of the throat. Uh,
Yes.
I've supported and I've had a lot of people on these live streams to talk about their work. They've all been very successful. But what I'm hoping to do with this is to break that new ground. See if something like this is what people want and have an actual product for them to have that they participated in. I could always create an Amazon page and sell those books on Amazon. And don't you know you have to sell them a few certain way and have those Google ad reads. Even though Google has now been proven to like unironically reduce the usefulness of their uh, uh, search engine, not because of even money, just because people will still use their engine more than anyone else's. I cannot comprehend such material evil, like how small your brain has to be, how small your spirit, that you have to be like, yeah, they'll take a worse product even though we could give a totally better product. Like, what do you mean? How do you live? If you're just living day to day with your life like that, you wake up, you breakfast, maybe you go to work, maybe you consume a movie, and then you go back home and sleep, and you get up and you go to work, and maybe you consume a movie and you go back to sleep, and then you get up and you go to work, and maybe you consume a movie and then you go back to sleep. That kind of life is no way to create a human being, and is proven by the sheer misery of our world. Uh, we can't solve it here. It's a spiritual problem. But maybe, just maybe, if you support this animatic, you'll see that this is something you can share around. This is a piece of art that you can reach out and show people that will maybe make them feel something to want to break these chains of life that break the soul and destroy the art of people who would otherwise be wonderful people creating who knows what. Most people only ever created children, but that's perfectly fine. We love our breeders at Pinkerton's Ghosts. uh, yes, we
Yes.
do. And if you discipline a child right, he won't turn into a werewolf or a vampire. Just saying. Just saying. Uh, these things, how do I want to put it? These things are so important. That's why I've dedicated so much of my time to other people's projects, to promoting them on the show weekly, and to make sure people have a space where they can go. I can contact Ben Wheeler and Superversive Radio, and they'll have me on their show. I've done it to people I've liked. I've done it for people I don't like. I dare you to figure out which ones I don't like. Uh, you won't, because I treat these things as a serious business, as a serious matter. This Kickstarter is as serious as anything else we've done here. We have books that you can buy, we have thank yous, and we have more services for those who want to take what they want to a next level, and even things that you want to see will be made, created, and turned into part of our show. I want to thank you. It's been 2 hours. I've got things I have to do. I want to give a big thank you to our backers. We're already $525 up on our pledge. If we reach $2,000, we'll be able to pay our artist, pay the fees, pay the taxes, probably. You don't want to get hit by the IRS before they're destroyed by our God Emperor. No, no, no. That's still fiction. Uh, to cover the fees and everything, and what you get out of it is not some base pleasure, something to consume and then forget about, like a DoorDash delivery, but a real piece of art that you helped fund into your hand, more than a book I'll be gruff about later, and I had all the advertising, blah blah blah, more than an evil publisher, but with people who truly believe in the work, in the material and spiritual world. That surely us, at least some of the 370 people watching this, are in, and something bigger than ourselves. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for the support we've gotten, and you'll hear from us next week with another stream, either with Jojo Fraga or with uh, what is excuse me,
Caroline?
Caroline. That's right, Caroline Furlong, who has been a friend of the show. Uh,
I was gonna say we've had her on the show
Anthony,
twice,
you know
like
how
three
bad my
times or
memory
four
is.
times.
How it
No, no, it's
it's
fine.
entirely, my
Uh,
memory banks are entirely filled up with story ideas I don't write, and I need to write them so I don't go into literary Alzheimer's. Uh, where are my keys? I gotta drive with Alzheimer's and drunk.
good. I appreciate that. Uh,
All right. Have a good night, everyone.